the Florida Podcast Network, the voice of Florida. This is episode 11C of the Finding Florida podcast on the Florida Podcast Network, small towns coast to coast.
We hope you're ready for an adventure. Now let's get this show on the road.
Welcome to Finding Florida, the podcast that takes you from country to the coast. Join your tour guides, an unlikely pair, city girl Jemmy and country boy Glenn, as they explore the amazing sights and sounds of the Sunshine State.
This is the third part of our Small Towns Coast to Coast adventure. If you missed episodes 11A and 11B, go back and take a listen to those first. In this episode, we wrap up our Small Towns Coast to Coast adventure, and we're going to have a great time doing it.
And don't forget the pictures and videos of all our escapades for the episode are found in our show notes at thefindingfloridapodcast.com and all of our social media. So this month, our adventure has taken us way out of Jemmy's comfort zone onto the back roads of Florida and out of the city. We began our last episode in Melbourne, Florida on the Atlantic coast and started working our way across the state toward a little town called Gibsonton. We got through to about Kissimmee on episode 11B. Well, this is part 2 of our trip as we head to Florida's west coast. Let the adventure continue.
I would dot the west with little hometowns and fill the east with excitement. Right in the middle, I put a great big playground. I would surround it all with water from coast to coast to coast, and I'd give it a name, Florida.
So we're about to roll out on our adventure day 2 on our road trip from the Atlantic to the Gulf.
That's right. And we're going to start by trying to find a local breakfast place. We'll see how well we do.
We did good yesterday.
We did. But I want to highlight the kind of place we stayed. This actually brought up a really good tip you want to share.
Yeah, and I've done it before. So we were heading up 192 toward Kissimmee.
Kissimmee.
We asked that yesterday, how locals say it.
And the locals always said Kissimmee.
Kissimmee.
So jump on board. It's not Kissimmee. You're not inviting anyone to kiss you. It's Kissimmee.
All right, for everybody coming here now knows it's Kissimmee.
Kissimmee.
So we knew we were...
Kissimmee.
But this was a freestyle trip. We hadn't planned our hotels or anything. No. So I was like, we were driving up, and I said, well, let's take a look and see what we can find in Kissimmee. And one of the things I remembered from before is a helpful tip is when you're looking at Travelocity or Hotels.com or one of those, look for the resorts, because all the timeshare resorts here in Kissimmee and Central Florida,
which there are a gajillion,
are all called resort.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how you know. If you're seeing a room that's pretty cheap at a resort, it's probably not a lie. It's a timeshare, and they sell out for when they don't have their members or whatever they're called staying in a room. They sell them really cheap because they want to get you into the sales spiel.
Exactly.
So this is my tip.
He didn't warn you guys. He's warning you, which he did not warn me. And we'll get to that in a second. Please proceed.
So when you check in, you're going to know you're at a timeshare. First of all, it's busy as hell. It was busy. And this place is huge and beautiful,
there's like a million activities you do right here on property. And it's just huge.
It's huge. It's a beautiful place.
You're driving in and it's just... Okay, so I come from South Florida, which is the land of the gated community, gated golf community, and that's what it looks like. It looks like a really super opulent gated golf community where you literally drive in and there's a guard gate at the front, someone to let you in, and you can't even get on property.
All the rooms are suites mine had bedroom and a huge bathroom with a shower you could fit 10 people in.
I had 2 flat screens. Did you have 2 flat screens? I had one in my bedroom, one in the I had a living room, pretty much a full kitchen.
Yes, full kitchen.
Everything's like mini, mini stove, mini.
That was beautiful.
But it was full kitchen.
And clean as a whistle. And I gotta say, and now you're thinking, well, how much did they pay for that? This is the tip: is we got them for $70 a night.
So cheap.
I mean, on a hotel room, any other place this would cost you $250.
Orlando hotels typically are pretty high because there's so much to do here, so many attractions and everything. But these timeshares, Yeah. Okay, so here's my beef with you,
Yes.
with Glenn. So he didn't warn me about this, but the timeshares, they not only want to just fill up the rooms that they just have available and empty, but it's also because they want to turn a profit on those,
Yes.
right? By getting you into their sales spiel, which I didn't know not to answer the phone at 9 o'clock in the morning when someone calls from guest services, because it ended up being a 10-minute long sales call that I couldn't get out of because I'm too nice.
And when you're checking in too, they'll send you the check-in line, but when you're coming out of the check-in line, there's always two guys, and it's always guys, standing there that will direct you to get your free welcome kit.
Your
complimentary basket, and it's at a separate counter, which is where they try and get you for the 3-hour sales pitch. So you have to just, and I have a trick to this, when I'm walking out, I look very busy after
Yes.
I turn around, and I say, oh no, I have a dinner date, I have to go, I'm late. And then they let you go. Then they don't like handcuff you to the
just
table.
Lie and get out of there.
Lie.
That's what I failed to do.
And then
I
go
failed
and
to lie and get off the phone this morning.
And they will call you every day under the guise of, oh, the activities today are, or
so
something.
Tip number 2, they'll call you in your room.
Yes.
Oh, okay, I was going to say tip
They'll
number
call
2,
you every
give them an invalid phone number or your worst enemy's phone number.
Yeah, I didn't even give my email address. I definitely didn't give them that. So they asked for it. I said, no thanks.
But the rooms are
Beautiful for
big,
$70
clean,
a night.
and cheap.
And cheap. They were beautiful. That's
Timeshare
our
resorts.
tip for Central Florida.
There you go. It's a winner, apparently.
All right, we're heading off to find a breakfast spot, and then we're driving down, I don't even know what road yet. We haven't looked.
Haven't figured it out.
And we're driving
Freestyle!
down one of the back roads. We're going to be heading through Lakeland and then over to...
I know we're going to be dealing with some airplanes today.
I hope so. I found an airplane place along the way, so we're going to stop there, and then we're heading to Carneytown.
If one of us has to go up in the airplane, please don't make it be me.
I held a snake yesterday.
Darn it.
Bets are off.
I didn't think about that. All right. We'll get it
And
going.
we're going to end the day in what town?
Gibsonton.
Gibsonton.
Yeah, it's like a carny retirement community. Gosh, it just has Jemmy wants to be here written all over it.
Being an old acting company guy, I kind of want to see it too.
It's exciting.
All right, here we go. Let's see what day 2 of freestyling does.
So, when we got to the hotel last night, Glenn was complaining because
I never
we
do that.
forgot to get chocolate ice cream. Yes, sorry to say.
I'm not even allowed to
He
have
was
it.
not
but I
even allowed to
wanted
have it. He wanted it. So, well, dreams do come true because we're on Route 27 and we found...
Heading south out of Kissimmee.
Yes, I look over and I see a big green roof with huge yellow letters that say ice cream. We found Webb's Candy Shop and I looked it up and wow, do they have a story. I just want to share it with everybody. So Webb's Candy Factory was founded in 1945 by Paul V. Webb when he returned home to Mayville, New York after serving in Patton's Third Army during World War II. Whoa, he's a guy I would have loved to have sit down with and chat with. Paul and his wife Nadine first started their business in Mayville by making all-day lollipops to ship to fairs and festivals all over the country. Soon their selection of sweets was expanded to include their signature goat milk fudge.
Oh, I have to try that. I love goat cheese.
Oh, well then, you love chocolate and fudge, so I have a feeling you're going to like it. Hand-dipped chocolates, peanut brittle, and many other confections. In the early 1970s, Paul and Nadine purchased C.S. Taylor Tropical Sweets, which was a candy factory that had been in operation in Davenport, Florida, making citrus candies.
Near where we are.
Yeah, making citrus candies since 1932. Webb still takes pride in making candies the old-fashioned way, cooking on the same gas stoves and copper kettles that date back to the 1800s, hand-dipping each piece of chocolate and hand-packing all of their products is the norm here at Webb's. Whoa, I'm already impressed. Well, both New York and Florida operations have been continuously run by the Webb family and are proudly on their 3rd generation. So I just can't wait. They have homemade ice cream, wine tastings even, exotic wines. Oh my gosh. You know, they just have so much. And there's citrus candy I'm excited to try. I'm going to let Glenn go to town on the chocolate. I'm going to try the citrus candy and be the Florida girl. But let's go check out Webb's hand-dipped chocolates, their ice creams. It's a candy factory. Guys, it's like Wonka over here.
This is one we didn't argue about stopping at.
No, like, hey, you want to stop at the candy factory?
Sure.
Where? You turn, and we're here. Wow, I can't believe I'm in the middle of all this. Like, wow.
I'm definitely going to get some goat cheese fudge.
You keep saying goat cheese.
Because I love goat cheese.
Peanut butter. Gosh, they have everything here. This taffy? Yep, saltwater taffy. They have everything.
Well, we just got done at Webb's Candy Shop here on Route 27 south of Orlando, and which was a random find just driving by.
And it's a delight for literally every sense. So,
Yes.
I mean, it was awesome to look. There's so many things to look at and find. Lots of little kitschy stuff. There's like exotic Florida wines, all kinds of stuff to
You
find.
didn't even notice anything else. You were just in the Florida wine department, and that was it.
Details. And it smells amazing in there. So the last thing, we have to see how does everything taste. I have a feeling it's going to taste really good.
So they're really known for, apparently what they're known for is their goat milk fudge.
Yep.
And I love goat cheese, so I'm assuming I'm going to love goat fudge.
And he kept calling it goat cheese fudge.
Well, they're both made out of goat milk. In my defense, they're both made out of goat milk. And the other thing they started making,
they took over another company and started that made citrus candy. So I decided to get the citrus candy.
By the way, the citrus candy kind of looks like something your grandmother had lying around that nobody ate. But
Except I have a feeling it's going to taste a lot better.
Well, let's try it. I don't know what it is. Is it hard or is it soft?
I don't know.
Gummy bears?
They're gummy. They are gummy.
Oh, okay.
And so there's the box I got is an assorted flavors of 5 different flavors. Okay, here we go.
All right, so I'm going to try. You're trying the what?
I'm going to try the reddish looking one. Whatever flavor it is.
Have a map.
You know what? No.
I hate when the chocolates don't have
it
maps.
also did come in boxes that were separate. So there was the lime box and the mango box and whatever.
You got a
I just don't know
I'm assuming that's
what
orange.
this one is. I'm assuming
right,
no, because there's another orange one.
They're not
I don't
hard
know.
candies, so there's that.
Yeah.
Okay, so you try.
I'm going to try mine. This is
Sugary
good.
orange goodness.
Super sugary.
Yeah.
Oh, you try yours.
I think I got lemon. What did you get?
I got a mouthful of yum. I'm not exactly sure of the flavor yet.
My guess is they both taste about the same.
It's really good.
Sugar gummy
Oh
stuff.
my god! I mean, another tip for travelers: if you need your kid to fall asleep on the road, do not give them this candy right before because it is full of sugar.
It's called
So good. Oh, citrus candy.
Citrus candy. I don't think I've ever had citrus candy.
I haven't either, but let's break me off a piece of that goat's milk fudge.
All right, so goat milk fudge. Let's try this. We don't have a knife, so sorry about that. Here you go. Is it good, goat milk fudge?
It's actually softer than I thought it would be.
I got the chocolate walnut because I love walnuts and everything.
It's like real fudge. Go figure. Oh, it's like melts. What?
We have to talk on meeting.
What? Glenn's eating his mouth is full. I have no idea what he's saying. But I think he said I have to tell them that he's eating. So guess what, guys? He's eating. This fudge,
really, really good fudge.
It's really good. It melts in your mouth.
This up. This is really good, and it's not as paid advertisement. We don't know these people.
No.
Matter of fact, we're going to try and get an interview with them. There was nobody there, but the nice guy at the counter.
Yeah, exactly.
But there apparently Webb family still works there, and they'll be in on Monday, so we're going to try and
do
get
our
a
best.
little interview.
Exactly. So,
In the meantime, we're just going to eat their candy.
just gonna eat their candy.
All right. Well,
But it is
good
really
find.
delicious. So,
Can all our finds be food?
well, we have to go hit some airplanes next. So, yeah, the aerospace place.
Please. We'll tell you the name of it shortly.
Okay, let's go.
As promised, as hoped, as anticipated, as desperately wanted, we have on the line a member of the Webb family. We got to go stop at Webb's Candy Shop on this adventure and absolutely fell in love with the place, fell in love with the story. So we have
and fell in love with the candy and
yes,
the fudge. Just
yes,
throw that in
100%.
there too.
Oh, and I anticipate also falling in love with the wine. I definitely had to get a bottle or two.
Yes.
But we have third generation manager RJ Webb of Webb's Candy Shop. Hello, RJ. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
Oh, absolutely. It's our pleasure. Trust me, we loved every single second we were in your candy shop the other day. We were so happy that we found it.
Thank you very much.
Please tell us a little bit about the history of Webb Candy and the family and how you guys found yourselves in Florida from all the way up in New York.
Well, there's actually two stories. There's a Florida story and a New York story, and they end up tying together in the 70s.
Oh.
So the Florida story originally started with two women in the late 20s, early 30s who had a tea room in Davenport. And they were making citrus candies for their friends and their customers. And their friends convinced them that they were too good to be given away, that they needed to start selling them. So they opened up Sundial Citrus Candies in 1932. And that just took off. And that business was purchased by a man named C.S. Taylor, who bought the business and bought the citrus candy recipe and expanded it and changed the name to C.S. Taylor Tropical Sweets. And that business was booming all through the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. And so then if we move up to New York, when my grandpa got back from World War II, he was in Patton's Third Army.
I'm sorry, I had to just stop. That was an amazing sentence. When my grandpa got back from World War II, he was in Patton's Army. That's already the highlight of this conversation for me.
RJ, was he a tank driver? Agree. Was he driving tanks, or was he in a tank?
He was actually a anti-aircraft gunner. So he was one of the ones with the 50 caliber in the back of the Jeeps, I think it was.
Okay.
He actually got the Bronze Star and a signed letter of accommodation from General Patton that my dad has framed on his desk.
Oh, wow. That's pretty cool.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So then what happened with him?
So in 1945, when he got back from the war, him and my grandma opened up the first Webb's Candy Factory. And they started out selling the big all-day lollipops that you might see at the fairs.
Oh, yeah. I've had one or two of those in my life.
Fairs or something like that. Yep. And
they're bigger than Jemmy's head, actually. Most of them.
Yeah. Pretty much.
And those were just selling like absolute crazy. He had 3 shifts working around the clock and was getting supplies in by boxcar. And he was selling to all of the different fairs around the country, the Mardi Gras. And then one day the orders just stopped coming. It was like everyone had tried one, then they were good, and didn't need another. So we actually, in the 90s, we actually used our last big stick for the all-day lollipops. That's how much he had in stock.
Oh, my gosh. Wow. He really purchased ahead.
So he had to figure out what to sell next because those suckers weren't selling anymore. And him and a guy in Buffalo came up with goat's milk fudge. And the goat's milk fudge started taking off, and he was selling that all over. Western New York in a town called Mayville, right on Lake Chautauqua. So that started taking off, and then he expanded into peanut brittle, sponge candy, hand-dipped chocolates, and then he eventually opened up Webb's Motel and Webb's Captain's Table, all right there on the same property, which is still in operation today. My cousin Daryl runs the resort, putt-putt, and candy store, and my cousin Ben runs the restaurant and antique shop up there.
That's really all the family.
And
this is the whole family's involved.
Yep, yes, sir. So late 60s, early 70s, my grandparents started doing the snowbird thing. And so they bought a restaurant, the Copper Top in Lake Wales. I'm not sure if y'all have heard of that or remember that, but they had that for a while. But my grandpa wanted to stay in the candy business. He was a complete workaholic. So he found C.S. Taylor Tropical Sweets, and he bought that business and their recipes, and he moved it from downtown Davenport out to Highway 27.
To run an operation like the candy store in Davenport, I mean, you guys still use your copper kettles, and it just seems like you guys have stuck to the traditional making of candy. So I can't help but think of something like, I mean, I'm sure you hear it all the time, but Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, when I think about using copper kettles and wooden spoons and all that. I mean, how important is it for you guys to stick to traditional candy making?
I think that hand touch really is what separates us and just really makes our candy stand out and different from the rest. Like you said, still with the copper kettles, the wooden paddles, but even down to our packaging, we still hand package and hand seal with the hand iron sealers, the foot pedal sealers for the bags. All of our ice cream is homemade right there. Each piece of candy is hand dipped. We cook our own centers. But I think that what's allowed us to really stick with our roots is we have the best employees. We have quite a few employees who have worked here longer than I've been alive, so they're 100% family in the family business.
Tell us about the tradition of the goat's milk fudge. I mean, I know you mentioned it's been in the family for years, but it tastes so good. Like what is it that makes your goat's milk taste your goat's milk fudge taste that delicious? I mean, when I tell you we put it on ice, we bought ice to keep it all day. I was being serious. We did. We could. Well, I mean, it tastes so delicious.
Oh, that is great to hear. So what the goat's milk does is the taste itself is pretty similar, but it gives it a richer taste and a creamier, smoother texture.
It definitely was creamy and smooth for sure.
And not sure if you noticed or not, but each bar of fudge is priced by the weight, because when we make that, it comes out into about a 15-pound slab, and each piece is individually hand cut and hand packaged. Wow. And they're all roughly around half a pound, but some are bigger and some are smaller because it's still just hand cut.
Right.
It's not ran through a cutter.
And you can immediately tell, like when I saw your peanut brittle, I'm like, this just has to be handmade and broken. Yeah. There's just something about it, and it just makes you feel nostalgic for when things were made right in this country. And I think you guys are still doing it right. Absolutely. So,
what Jemmy doesn't know is Jemmy doesn't know is I still have some fudge left, and I'm eating it right now. So there.
Darn it, I wish I had. Well, I still have some citrus candy left. Guess what I'm having after lunch? Thank you very much. So,
I'm eating it right now. It's really good.
It's really, really good. So, RJ, thank you so much. Tell us where people can find your candy shop, the website. Give us all the information for people who want to find out more about you guys.
All right, sure. We've got a Facebook page also that we run specials and promotions on, Webb's Candy Shop. Our website is webbscandyshop.com, and we are on Highway 27 in Davenport. We're 5 miles south of I-4 on Highway 27. All right. You'll see our big lollipop sign.
So as we're driving along, Glenn goes, "Hey, there's a dinosaur up there." I'm like, what? And I look up and I knew exactly what he was talking about. He, with all his safety resources at bay, of course, driving, pointed out a cloud in the sky that looked like a dinosaur, and I saw it immediately. It really did look like one. How would you describe that cloud?
Well, it's a dinosaur standing up on his back legs.
Yes, with his head turned and everything. And then I realized, no, it also has wings on its back. They're wings. It's a dragon dinosaur. And it reminded us of all those kind of games that you used to play when you were a kid in the car on long road trips. This was way before iPads and iPhones and all the electronic babysitters that people have today.
We weren't allowed to watch TV
There
in the car.
was no DVR in the back of the headrest for the kids. No. None of that garbage. So what kind of stuff did you used to play with your brothers in the car on road trips?
Yeah, and I had 3 brothers, so Mom really wanted to shut us up. We played the basics. We didn't get very creative. We played the license plate game on road trips.
Okay.
You're trying to find all 50
Describe that
states.
Just for anybody who might have their head in the sand and know what the license plate game is.
You try and find all 50 states of the license plates as you're driving down the highway.
Yeah.
So that was pretty simple. The hardest part with that is you had to write them down because you couldn't remember which ones you got and didn't get. So
That's right.
Somebody was in charge of writing them down, and they always gave up about halfway through.
Or fell asleep or whatever.
Dropped a pencil. So that game never finished. You never finished the license plate game because, Alaska and Hawaii were kind of hard to find in Pennsylvania. So
the only version of a license plate game I think we ever finished is finding all the letters of the alphabet on license plates.
Yes, and that's the other one we used to play. We used to use signs, too.
Signs. If you're cheating and you're lazy, you can use signs. If you wanted to be real about it, you only use license plates.
The other one they used to do is take, and I can't remember one right now, my mom used to come up with sayings that were very popular.
Yeah.
And then you had to find the words for the sayings on signs.
Oh, that's annoying.
Yeah, that was annoying.
One game that my brother and I came up with was one of us would start with the first letter, and then we'd each come up with the next letter, and we had to form a word. And the first person who couldn't find another letter that kept building a word lost. And so it was tricky. It was highly intellectual for our time. we had to challenge each other. Another game, this is going to sound super morbid, but it actually helps explain why Jordan is quite the chip off the old block and likes watching horror games and all that stuff. But my brother and I were a little bit twisted, and we used to sit there and try to figure out different objects and things and items in the world and how you could die. How they could kill you. So we'd be like,
we never played that game.
And we had, so the challenge was you had to try to come up with something that the other person couldn't figure out a way to kill you with. So marshmallows, I'll just shove them down your throat. Yeah, we were sick couple of kids. But another could be sick depending on your mindset. One of my favorite things to do in the car when I was a kid was Mad Libs. Did you guys play Mad Libs when you were little?
No. I don't know what Mad Libs are.
What? Okay, so Mad Libs were these books where it would tell a story.
See, that's the problem. It's a book.
Sorry, true.
Yeah.
But tell a story, usually like 1 or 2 pages long at the most, with certain words blanked out. And it would say underneath the blank, adjective, or noun, or verb. And so you had to fill in, and the other person didn't know what the story was. So you're like, okay, I need an adjective, okay, I need a verb. And then you just write these things down, and you fill them in, and then you tell the story, and it would be one of the funniest things you've ever heard. So depending on your mindset, Mad Libs could go like in all kinds of directions.
Well, let's play a game right now. Jemmy, describe the road we are on, trying to get over to the Tampa area.
I'll say this. It's a road I would never otherwise be on.
Never in 100 years would she be on this road.
The road itself was very rickety, full of potholes, a little bit unnerving. Kind of remind me of like we're driving into some Friday the 13th scene or something like that. But it's gotten much better.
I say that this is the reason they built Route 4 from Orlando to Tampa, because they had to take roads like this.
All the time. And never really
get there.
Quite knowing if you're going to make
it. This is a back Florida road. We got farms on both sides. We got the live oak trees over top.
Oh,
this
my
is
goodness.
a back Florida road right here.
But it is beautiful. I'm actually kind of digging it, to be honest.
Yep. And then she'll be nervous in about 2 minutes.
Yep. On schedule.
Oh, there's broken furniture along the road. There we go.
Need any furniture, anybody? Just drive the back roads of Florida. You'll find some. So we just arrived at the Aerospace Center for Excellence, and I have to point something out to all of our listeners out there. If you call yourself a Floridian, then you know what makes a good parking spot. A good parking spot in Florida is not the closest parking spot to wherever you're going. No. Glenn just parked in the closest parking spot, which is not the best. The best parking spot in Florida is the one under the shade. Back up and try again, Glenn. This is something all Florida drivers know, except Glenn.
Who doesn't care? God, that's a woman thing.
It is not a woman thing.
It's a woman thing.
It's not a woman thing.
It's a woman thing. Women are more picky about parking in the shade than men ever would be.
I don't like to melt. I'm sorry. I am chocolate after all.
You're something.
All right, so now that we are properly parked, Glenn, would you like to tell everybody?
In the shade, apparently.
Yes. Where we are and what we're doing.
We are in Lakeland, Florida, heading across. We're pretty much halfway between Orlando and Tampa at this point.
Okay.
So
thank you for telling me, because I really had no idea.
Yeah, back roads, you kind of get lost. So we are at the Aerospace Center for Excellence in Lakeland, which has a museum and all kinds of cool airplanes out front.
Yes!
This place is fancier than I thought it would be, to be honest. And it also has the Central Florida Aerospace Academy, which I have no idea what that is, but it sounds cool.
It sounds really cool. I mean, just pulling in the parking lot, we've already seen like a ton of really cool things. Old airplanes of all sorts, warplanes, seaplanes,
Thunderbirds,
helicopters. So yeah, there's all kinds of cool stuff. I can't wait to see.
By the way, would you ever get in that little tiny helicopter in front of us?
I'd get in it on the ground where it's sitting right now. Sure, anytime. I'll climb in there right now if you ask me to. But will I get in and let you take off? No.
I didn't think so.
Absolutely
It's about
not.
the size of my Toyota truck.
Toy cars bigger than that thing. No.
So we're going to let you know all about this in a few minutes.
There you go.
The biggest, baddest air show in the South is back and better than ever. The Sun and Fun International Fly-In returns to Lakeland with not one but 2 jet teams. See thousands of aircraft daily at the biggest air show in the South. It's bigger, it's faster, it's louder, it's Sun and Fun.
We are here at the Aerospace Museum and just walked in, and the first thing we did was meet Logan, who's behind the counter, and we saw that there's an academy across the street. We just mentioned it, and you happen to go there, so tell us what the academy is.
Yeah, so it's a 4-year high school. They have 4 tracks there, which is aerospace, which is the basic course for pilots. They have A&P, which is like mechanics, avionics, the electronics, and they have engineering.
So it's like a trade school for aerospace.
Yeah.
I never even knew that existed.
And you said it's part of the high school, but it's separate from it's separated out. So but you can still take all your core classes in that one location.
Yep. And they have a high school, or they have a scholarship over there where you can get your private pilot's license for free.
Oh my gosh.
Are you doing that?
Yeah, I'm doing that right now.
And how far into it are you?
I soloed about 2 months ago.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Okay.
I can see you in a pilot outfit and everything, can't you? With the little cap and all that. So
how scary was that, your solo?
It was different. It was lighter without the...
Lighter?
Without the instructor.
That's
true. But, I mean, was it scary? Or do you have so much confidence by then you're pretty sure you can handle it?
I could handle it. It was fun. It was a good experience.
But I mean, you've always had him sitting over there going, I'm going to take this, I'm going to fix this if it goes wrong.
Yeah, it was fun.
If there's anything that gets into the heads of your classmates and stuff that keep any kind of fear, what would the fear, if there any fear that gets into their heads, what would it be?
I would think weather's a big one.
Weather.
Wind is really bad.
That makes sense.
In Florida, we don't have any weather here.
No, we have no problems with weather whatsoever here in Florida.
Or daily thunderstorms. Well, that's very cool. Well, congratulations.
And so you fly a Cessna 150, you said. Wow, how long have you been flying that?
I've been flying for at least 4 or 5 months now.
Wow, good for you. Good for you.
And do you want to be a pilot? What do you want to do?
Yeah, I would like to be a pilot, yeah.
Are they going to make you go to college, too?
Yeah, I'll probably go to college.
Thank God. I mean, I like to know that my pilots have gone to college.
Well, congratulations. Have fun with it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Logan, so much. Great meeting you.
We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
So we are here still at the Aerospace Museum in Lakeland, Florida. And it's appropriate that we're here because flying is such a huge part of Florida with the space program and everything. Everybody's been looking at Florida for years when it comes to flight. All kinds.
Right.
Sure. Space shuttle, everything else.
Everything. There are air shows all the time. There's so many airports. There's so many everything. It's crazy.
One of the interesting things is that at this airport we're at Lakeland is the home of the Sun and Fun, which is the second largest air show and fly-in, which means a whole bunch of planes fly in from all over the country.
Oh my gosh.
It has attendance of 300,000 people.
So, fun fact about me, can you guess how many air shows I've been to? You're never going to get this right. You're never going to guess it. How many air shows do you think I've been to? Okay, you got it right. That was a real tough question. I've never been to an air show.
You've never seen the Thunderbirds
Do you know why? Because I'm so nervous I'm going to see a tragedy firsthand.
That doesn't happen at most air shows.
I know. I'm sure it's never happened at this one.
I've been to like a dozen. I love air shows. But and that happens here. And it started in 1974. And in 1974, it was their first year. They advertised it in the magazine. And they had 1,900 guests show up at 365 aircraft. So what happened is immediately after that, it became very popular for
By the way, we're looking at a newspaper clipping that's older than me. You know that, right?
Exactly. And it looks like it was older than you, actually. And it was held in January that year. And it's held every year. So look up Sun and Fun Fly-In.
Yeah, right here in Lakeland.
Now, I have a quiz for you.
Okay,
so...
You purposely positioned me this way, and I can't wait to find out why.
Okay.
Why? Why am I standing with my back to a wall?
Here at the museum, it says the top 10 busiest airports in Florida.
You're going to have me guess, aren't you?
Yeah, so I want you to guess
this is where I prove how stupid I am.
Would be the busiest. If you were to guess the busiest airport in Florida, what would you guess?
I would guess, Miami and Orlando have to be on the list. Come on.
Okay. Which one would be the busiest?
You're not letting me do a twofer. Okay, I will say the busiest. Because of the international flights, I'm going to go on a limb and say Miami.
You're right. And I think a lot of people would think Orlando.
I know my business. I know my stuff.
I think a lot of people would say Orlando, don't you?
Yeah, I almost said it.
Disney,
almost said it. I almost said it. But
no, it's Miami, and you got it for top two right. Miami and Orlando.
Oh, really? Those are top two? Look at me go.
You'll never guess what the third one is.
Pensacola.
Nope. I would have guessed. I
don't know why I guessed.
I would have guessed Tampa.
Tampa.
It's because there's a lot of flights coming in out of Tampa.
Yeah. It's not Tampa?
No, it's Hollywood International.
Oh, Fort Lauderdale.
Yeah. Well, that's Fort Lauderdale's airport. Tampa's then on the list. Southwest Florida International. I don't know.
Is West Palm on there at all? Palm Beach International?
Then we have Palm Beach International's number 6.
Wow. So I live within an hour of 3 of the top
That's
6.
right.
I said top 4 because I'm dumb.
Jacksonville's next. Pensacola's number 8.
Okay.
Sarasota is on there, number 9. I didn't know. Bradenton. Yeah, Sarasota, Bradenton.
Okay.
And then Orlando Sanford Airport, which I've flown out of before.
It must be like the smaller adjunct.
It's a smaller airport. Yeah, it's a little ways north of Orlando. So there you go. There's your top 10 airports in Florida. You did good. Yeah, and you live near a lot of them.
And the other interesting thing about Palm Beach International Airport is on a sign just a couple feet away from that one. So it's really interesting. There's a big old picture. We'll share it in the show notes. And it caught my attention. It looks like an overhead diagram of runways, and it has a bunch of references you'll find very interesting. So here's the sign that says next to it. It says, Donald Trump's real estate empire even includes a piece of the sky above South Florida. I didn't know that, which I think is crazy.
I know he owns part of South Florida.
I mean, I know when he gets in here in town, sometimes it feels like he owns the entire state because all the traffic gets redirected. But in fact, actually, now that I think about it, a friend of mine has a small airplane flight school, and he can't fly for about 3 weeks in and around the time that Donald Trump is coming down. Kills his business. But anyways, the coordinate names came with new departure procedures that directed pilots to fly through specific series of coordinates. So the procedures cut costs and reduced the noise by keeping planes from straying over nearby neighborhoods. But they named these after Trump family members. So the departure called the Ivanka 1 is right under Trump's Mar-a-Lago club. I'm like, what? There's a flight. Could you imagine being so like high end that you have a flight departure named after you? But since Trump has declared himself become president, there's been talk of renaming the coordinates. So far, it looks like they're still there, but it's so interesting. I'm like, that's just the craziest thing I've ever heard. Imagine, I cannot take off. Currently it is the Ivanka 1 coordinates. That's big baller right there. My gosh. So this sign, the quiz questions that he just asked me, it's all on this big wall when you first walk in, all sponsored by visitflorida.com. So big shout out to visitflorida.com for reminding us about all the aviation history that comes right from our own state.
And the other little piece of trivia that you may not know is the hurricane hunters fly
out
of this airport where we are.
Yeah.
This is where they fly out of.
Logan told us that. Yeah. Super interesting.
So they're huge planes, so it must be fun to see them fly out.
I mean, I had actually just mentioned to Glenn a moment ago, we were talking about acrobatic pilots or pilots that have gone in these old rickety planes from back in the day, and I happened to say, pilots are their own breed. Like, you have to have a certain level of fearlessness to be a pilot. But can you imagine being a hurricane hunter? I'm sorry, you're just crazy. That will never be on the Finding Florida podcast unless we're sending you up, Glenn. I'm sorry, not going to be me. Would you really?
Oh,
all right, duly noted. Y'all heard it here.
Imagine the waivers you have to sign for that one. So we're hoping to get an interview with the marketing director here, Carol. We're going to get that later. She's not working today, but we're hoping to get
it's Saturday.
that. It's Saturday. Yeah, nobody's working today except us. So, and I'm going to throw Jemmy under the bus a little bit. This is how young she is. She didn't know who Howard Hughes was. And he has a big display here, and she had no idea who he was.
And now half our audience also feels super young, because I'm holding out hope that half our audience didn't know either. Come on, guys.
Come on, Rhonda. Do you know who Howard Hughes is? It's like a movie that's just out,
Shut up. It was a Leonardo DiCaprio movie, apparently. I can't believe I missed it. I don't know how that happened.
You missed it.
All right. Look him up.
That's it here from the...
And by that I mean Leonardo DiCaprio.
So we're going to wrap it up here from the museum, and website is...
FlySNF for Sun and Fun, flysnf.org.
There you go. And if you're ever in the Lakeland area, which is between Orlando and Tampa, stop in.
Absolutely.
Well, we were able to catch up with, after the fact, Carol, who is the Director of Marketing of the Aerospace Center for Excellence and the Sun and Fun International Fly-In and Expo. Hi, Carol.
Hi, how are you both?
Good.
Fantastic.
We had a great time playing with airplanes.
Oh my gosh.
At your museum. We did. We had a good time. It was fun.
Fantastic. Glad you did.
Yeah.
And it's a little known jewel out there in Lakeland.
Yes, it is. Our Aerospace Center for Aerospace Discovery, which is a part of our Aerospace Center for Excellence campus. That's the arm of our organization that we tout that preserves the legacy of aerospace and aviation. So I'm glad you enjoyed your visit.
And learned a lot. My gosh. So for someone who's really still always nervous to fly and doesn't quite understand the mechanics of it and just still looks up in the sky and is like, how the heck is that thing staying up there? To see the evolution of airplanes go from, I mean, you have the replicas that you have in your museum are just, they're mind blowing between, you know, the oldest first study airplane, level 1 airplane to the fighter jets. Just, it was mind boggling. It really is.
Yes, it is. And we have also with our exhibits that have been nationally recognized, such as our Howard Hughes exhibit, and now our recent edition, our NOAA exhibit, the National Oceanic and Aircraft or no, I'm just going to go with that. No,
I think it is, right?
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. That in and of itself, with their headquarters here on the Lakeland International Airport with us, we're so proud to have that traveling exhibit spend a year in our museum as well. And as you said, there's always those pieces of the puzzle that you learn about. Yeah. I mean, everyone thinks of NOAA, they think of the hurricane hunters, but there's so much more that organization does. And for us to have that opportunity through our Aerospace Discovery Museum, in order to do that is what we like to tout for the state of Florida and also our national and international visitors. So I hope you had noticed that we are recognized as the state of Florida's official Florida Aviation Museum. So yes, it is well endorsed by Visit Florida, Visit Central Florida, and other vacation destination type associations because it is important. Aviation was critical to the history and the development of Florida. And so we are so proud to be able to have that exhibit as a part of that too. And I'm sure Logan, our ambassador, that so shared with you, there's many families come in and they find, family members or they share experiences, that their dads, granddads, brothers and all, flew certain planes, worked for certain companies or whatever it might be. But that tie to Florida is right there.
Well, all that's well and good, but let's get to the really cool stuff, and that's the Sun and Fun International Fly-In, where you get to see planes from all over the country come. I am so putting on the cat. Can we get media passes for next year? Because I want to come to this thing.
I'm sure I could get that worked out for you. Yeah.
And then can we get Jemmy on some weird aircraft?
I see where this is going. Nope. The answer is absolutely not.
Tell us about this.
Come on. You don't want to go up with one of those the aerobatic performers
I'll
and
stand
do
on the
loops
wing
and all that?
I'll stand on the wing in a dream, but not in reality.
The Sun and Fun International Flying Expo is a 45-year staple here for the Lakeland area, Polk County. It had, had its roots with a group of individuals that decided to get together and just basically have breakfast, lunch, and which grew then into camping, which then grew into a fly-in, which then now is in an internet, as you said, an international fly-in and expo. Wow. Over the course of 6 days, we are the busiest airport, if not in the country, possibly in the world. And right here in the backyard of Lakeland International Airport, we have over 200,000 attendees. We are so excited for 2019 to be able to have the U.S. Navy Blue Angels. They always bring a fantastic crowd because they put on a fantastic show.
Have you ever seen the Blue Angels?
Not live in person. I've seen videos, but no, I've never been there.
We got to get Jemmy to see that. That is unfreaking
You have got to block your calendars for April 2nd through the 7th of 2019. Because that week is going to be absolutely awesome. The air show itself is very, very well controlled, worked in conjunction with the FAA and all that. And it's just our air show director that works here on staff that puts together these shows. Couple that, as I described, with the type of performers that we have, let's just meld in some World War II pyrotechnics. Let's just work in a wall of fire. Let's work in 2 night shows that these planes actually strap on pyrotechnics, sparklers, and everything else on the wings of their planes. And you put it to music. It is
they're a special
awesome
breed,
event.
Aren't they, Carol? They're a special breed.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are.
And
you know, we're proud to say, yes, we have hot air balloons. We've got light sport aircraft. We have all kinds of vintage aircraft, home built. There's a couple thousand airplanes that'll come in and on display, and throughout the week itself, probably close to over 50,000 aircraft that will be in and out and what they call aircraft movements.
Well, this is great. I can't wait. I really do love air shows, and I've seen many across the country, but never with this many. I've been to air shows, but I've never been to a fly-in. April 2nd through the 7th of 2019, Jemmy, I know where we're doing the April show next year.
Can you imagine
it'll
the
be at the fly-in.
Meet when you're walking around.
That's where we're doing it.
I'm so excited.
I already found out where you apply for media credentials. I'm on the website. I have that page pulled up, so I'll be doing that.
Wow, I've never seen you work ahead this much. You really must be excited.
And then the other part of why we do this is, as you enjoyed your visit to Aerospace Discovery Museum, we do that. Our Sun and Fun Fly-In truly is the largest fundraiser event for our Aerospace Center for Excellence, which funds our youth programs and scholarships for tomorrow's aerospace professionals. So there really is a rhyme or reason why we put this Sun and Fun Fly-In together, and we're quite proud that we are able to fund over $2 million in STEM education, of which $430,000 in scholarships on an annual basis are turned around back to the community. So this is a community event.
Wow.
You can find it at flysnf.org, flysnf.org. We'll put a link to that in our show notes, and we'll also put it over on Facebook. We took a lot of cool pictures. So if you want everybody, go over to our website, Finding Florida Podcast, and check out the pictures we posted from the museum.
Into a hot air balloon basket. That was pretty awesome.
That's the most she's ever doing in a hot air balloon is the basket on the ground. That's all we're going to see.
Well, we'll have to get you in. We have the Hare and the Hound race with the hot air balloons. We'll have to get you hooked up.
Yay! I'll totally there. And Glenn, you have to do it with me. If I had to play a violin for you, you have to climb in a hot air balloon for me. It's only fair.
Thank you, Carol.
And here's Glenn's highlight.
All right, guys, we are in a shaded parking spot because Glenn learns and follows directions over here at the International Independent Showmen's Museum, which I have been dying. Literally, this is what the whole trip has been about. It's been about getting Jemmy into a carny museum. That's all I care about. Well, the reason this is here is because Gibsonton is basically across the water. Gibsonton is one of the small, tiny towns in Florida that is it's made its name on the map because it's basically a carny retirement community. And there are like little things in that town that kind of make it known that that's what it was. Like the post office has a counter especially designed for a little person. The bar has both a chair that would seat a very wide person and a chair that would seat a very tall person. So there are all these quirky things over in Gibsonton. But here at the International Independent Showmen's Museum, they have like all the fun stuff that you would ever could imagine seeing at a carnival in the history of carnies right here. I am so excited. So they have one of the first Ferris wheels that was ever built. It's actually reconstructed and operational right here in the museum. I'm really excited. We have Gypsy Rose Lee costume. And it also has an outfit worn by the Viking giant. He was nearly 9 feet tall, weighed 425 pounds. Name was Johan Peterson. And so his costumes are there, and there's rides and all kinds of stuff. So I can't wait I've been looking at pictures of this thing 4 months now. I don't care what the trip is, but we are designing a trip that is going to get me, come hell or high water, to the International Independent Showmen's Museum. So right now, let's go check out the Independent.
We're almost at the coast, too.
We're almost there. We're almost there. We're like feet away. I can smell it. I didn't really believe it that there was a Ferris wheel in here. Lo and behold, there's a Ferris wheel in here. Hi, everyone. So Glenn and I are at the International Independent Showmen's Museum. I'm the one who's gotten it right all the whole time, I swear. But this place is awesome. This is a carnival
museum that features all kinds of stuff. I didn't believe it when I heard that there was going to be one in here. I'm like, there's no way they fit a Ferris wheel in here, but they do, including a merry-go-round and all of this interesting history. So there's exhibits here, there's knowledge, there's attractions, and everything that you can think of what you saw at a fair, carnival, or festival as a kid. But one of the coolest things, this cabinet takes up the entire room. It is huge. This is the miniature carnival Midway. It took 26 years for Ray Genter to create this miniature carnival masterpiece. You'll see over 15,000 hand-painted tiny people that include men, women, and children, hundreds of rides, many from a bygone era, a score of concession stands, and vintage carnival shows. So this model is entirely handcrafted from common everyday materials. What this means is you can do this at home, folks, if you have any kind of talent, which I know I don't.
Yeah, we won't be signing up for this. I'm patient. So
None whatsoever. But materials like matchsticks, like balsa wood.
That's my finger in comparison.
I know, they're super tiny, guys. Balsa wood, toothpicks. So he built this miniature carnival in the basement of his home, starting with one 3-by-4 foot table, which over the years eventually grew to over 16 tables for this model. It's so impressive, so we just couldn't believe it. But this goes to show that this place is just awe-inspiring. I mean, they have one of the oldest ticketing booth for the Tilt-A-Whirl is here. They have just all this stuff that's just, it's nostalgic. The International Independent Showmen's Museum is fantastic. We're having a great time. You having a good time, Glenn?
Good time.
Great time.
So we found the curator of the museum. His name is David, and this place has brought back so many memories for me from going to the fair and any carnival when I was a kid. It just brought back so many memories. Did you work in the circus?
Yeah, over 50 years.
What were you doing?
Well, you have to understand the distinction between circuses and carnivals. When you think of a circus, think of performers and animals, and when you think of a carnival, think of rides, games, and shows.
And which were you?
I was with the carnival.
Carnival. Mm-hmm. Okay, and what'd you do?
Well, at one time I even owned a carnival.
Oh, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Traveled around?
I traveled everywhere in the United States.
What was that life like on the road?
Well, it's hard to encapsulate it in a few sentences, but it was different.
I bet you were considered the interesting characters that came into town, but you probably met some very interesting characters in towns.
Oh, yes, many, many.
Did the carnival bring out those characters?
Well, the carnival, I always have said that no one aspires to be in the carnival business. No one goes to school, gets an education, gets a graduate degree, and says, oh boy, now I can be on the carnival.
Right.
People are either born into this business or they find their way on a midway through some misfortune in life.
And what was your story? How did you end up there?
Well, a little bit of both. My lineage goes back to circus people with the Ringling Brothers, Barnum and Bailey. My uncle and my grandfather were both clowns on the Ringling Brothers show. And so it was a natural leap for me to get into the traveling shows. However, a lot of circus people, especially in those days, made a great distinction between the carnival and circus. And when I joined the carnival, I was considered the black sheep of the family.
Was it the talent thing? We have talent, we can do something, and you guys don't? Or
a lot of people, especially in those days, considered themselves above the carnival business. They were performers, Right. And I guess it goes back to the early theater years where people worked on stage and all that, the accolades that they got.
Yeah. Who was someone that you had the best memories of that you used to travel with and be in the carnival with?
Oh, that encompasses a wide range of people. Yeah. I couldn't narrowly define it. People on a carnival, on a circus, or any traveling show are defined by who they are, not necessarily where they came from, the color of their skin. people are either good people or bad people, and that's how we define them on the road.
Yeah.
If you're a good person, you're embraced in this world and, welcomed into the world of outdoor show business. If you're not, you got to go away.
So that's something I picked up on, and part of the reason why I was so attracted to coming to this place. It just seems like carnivals are naturally inclusive.
They are.
Everyone is welcome. Who's a good person, as you've pointed out.
There has never been a great distinction between what women are capable of and differentiation between what men are capable of. I've known many women in this business. Some owned carnivals that were capable of doing almost anything, especially anything a man could do.
Having owned an acting company for 10 years and doing a lot of traveling, 450 shows, the one thing I do know is that in our case, the cast, in your case, everybody involved with the carnival becomes a family. You have no choice. I mean, really, when you think
you're
about it.
absolutely right, because you're a stranger in every town you go every week, and all you have is each other.
That's kind of how we feel when we travel. Yeah. We have to get along.
The two of us, that's it.
Yeah, well, there you go.
So when we were upstairs, we saw, wow, I mean, that huge case with the miniature, I think it was Ray Garter.
Ray Gentner.
Ray Gentner, okay, who built that. Unbelievable. And we were taking a really close look at it. And one thing really caught my eye, and it was that he had behind the scenes images, even like what you would see behind.
That's kind of tongue-in-cheek humor.
I'm sure. Tell us a little bit of the truth behind the scenes, and when the curtain went down, what was it like at a carnival after all the guests went away? What was that like?
Would depend upon the individual. Some people, most people in the carnival business are family people. They have children, and they go about their daily lives in a well-rehearsed atmosphere. They work very hard, and when they get done at night, they want to
tired.
They want to go home.
It didn't close till
maybe
midnight, 1 o'clock. Yeah.
Yeah, and they want to get a meal at a local restaurant if one's available, and go home, go to bed. Now there are those guys that want to go out drinking all night and take advantage of the local color, and it just depends. Most people, I think, when the curtain goes down, you've put in a big day. Yeah. You are tired. You're dragging. Shows
too. We were tired. We were done.
Yeah. You don't want to go out and drag the cat.
Yeah. So now, I want to get to the museum, but I want to talk a little bit about Gibsonton first, because it plays a role with why the museum is here. So tell us a little bit about this town and how did it become kind of the place for retired carnies and circus workers?
Well, they're not just retired. There's still about 200-300 families live in this town. They're not in here now because, of course, they're on the road. Their season is...
So they're still working once in this town.
Okay. They're playing big fairs right now. The main fair season is on, right. And everybody who has any show of any relevance is out playing a big fair right now, even as we speak. Tonight they will tear down and move to another location and set back up either tomorrow or Monday and start the whole process all over again. This town was founded by a couple named Eddie and Grace LeMay. They fell in love with the place because the place was conducive to being a winter home for traveling show people. And the weather was right. The people in the area were friendly towards carnival and circus people. And anyway, they went back north, told everybody what they found, and people began migrating into the area. And by the 1930s and 40s, there were just literally hundreds of show people in there. And at one time, we had 138 human oddities living in this town. What you would call freaks.
Yeah.
And Gibsonton to this day is the only town in America that has a counter in the post office especially built for the little people.
So tell us how this came to be and what people are going to see when they come here.
Well, they're going to see a collection of artifacts from the carnival business, which really started in 1893 with the Chicago World's Fair. And they started, as the business progressed, they started building bigger shows, better shows, and then riding devices were developed.
So how did you collect? There's hundreds, if not thousands of pieces here between the artwork and the pieces that are in here from a full-size Ferris wheel and, the whole thing. How did you collect all of this over time?
This has all been donated.
All been donated. Okay.
Everything you see in here has been donated by members of the community or members of our show business family.
And do members of that family still come in and walk around?
Yes. The museum provides them with a bit of their own history.
Yeah.
And so they find it intriguing.
And I imagine that they have a similar reaction that we saw from everybody who was here with us today of that nostalgia. But for them, it must be another level. It must be so personal.
They've had families that have been in this business forever.
Yeah.
My favorite thing here, by far, just because I know the amount of work it took, was that display, the model display that he put together.
Took him 26 years to build that thing.
Oh my God, it's 200 feet long. It's incredible.
And he has 4 more sections that he would like to donate to the museum. We just don't have any room for it,
It is one of the largest. Now, Ringling Brothers has a display.
They have the Tibbles model down there.
Yes, they have the model display there, which is very intricate and very cool. But this one's even longer than that one.
I always tell people there's 15,000 people on that little midway up there. You can count them if you like. You don't believe me?
No, that's okay.
We don't have 3 months.
26 years. Well, if someone wants to come and see it for themselves, and along with everything else that you have here, what's the website? How do they get in touch with you? How do they find you guys?
Well, you can go to showmansmuseum.org.
We just got done at the Showmen's Museum, and
I loved it. It was everything I wanted to be.
It was cool. It was really neat, and the exhibits there were inclusive too.
Yeah, inclusive. And on that point, I got stopped for about 15 minutes at this one. It seems like on these adventures, I always find we dip into African American history on all these adventures at some point, and today was no different. I didn't see it coming, but they were talking about the old minstrel shows and everything, and there was a whole video about that, and that
how that led to them on vaudeville.
Yeah. So that really caught me off guard. I didn't expect to see that and learn all of that. But that goes to the inclusive-ness of this place. Oh, man, the exhibits and people who used to be involved here. This place was awesome. I was skeptical that there would be an actual full functioning Ferris wheel, and there was.
Right,
and
from the early 1900s.
Oh my gosh, I would not climb on that thing now. But, but what was the one thing that just really jumped out at you the most?
Model, the 200-foot model.
Yeah, go look in our Facebook Live, guys. You'll see exactly what he's talking about. That was...
I just know what it takes to do that.
And you don't have it in you?
I couldn't do one little person. He did 15,000.
See, my problem is I would be so anal. I wouldn't get past the first 3 things. They wouldn't be good enough.
No, you'd have to be rebuilding them the whole time.
All the time.
26 years later, she'd still be making Ferris wheel.
This is so true. But yeah, I loved that place. And so our plan was, this is coast to coast, and we are so close. We are right there. But you know what? We're calling a mulligan. This counts. We just got rained out. I'm not standing in the rain to do a recording for another 10 feet just to get us technically to the coast. So as anal as I am, I'm calling a mulligan. We are ending here right at the museum.
It's a perfect place to end.
It really is. We're going to go try to find some local grub to fill our bellies and rejuvenate because, man, I'm tired.
We are close. We are so close to the bay that leads into the Gulf.
Yeah.
Actually, from the bay here, if we drive another 10 miles, we would see Tampa.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Hillsborough Bay.
Hello to all of our Tampa friends. Sorry we missed you. We got rained out. We're stopping here. And gosh, if you can find, if you have a chance to come, check out the International Independent Showmen's Museum. It was fantastic.
Stay tuned for our adventure wrap, which we have coming up next, because I want to ask Jemmy how she survived her first freestyle.
Oh, it was with difficulty in a car, not knowing where Glenn's taking me all the time.
Well, we'll talk about that in just a minute, right after this.
Need a convenient and delicious dessert? Look no further. Grab a cheesecake jar from Leanne's, a local Tampa-grown company shaking up dessert. They bake a single slice of New York cheesecake right in a jar to keep it from getting cold on hot Florida days. It's genius. We both tried some for ourselves back at Podfest and truly loved it. And then they met us out in Tampa and gave us more. So we love them now even more. Thank you so much, guys. Find Leanne's on social media as Cheesecake, the letter N, more. Cheesecake and more. And look up the Central Florida location nearest you to find their yummy jars. Their website is www.leannscheesecakesandmore.com. That's LEANNS, cheesecakes, the letter N, more.com. Or give Joseph a call at 813-445-3861 for your treat in a jar.
Well, now it's time to wrap our show. This is the portion of our episodes every month where we talk about what we did, what we liked, what was a bit of a challenge, and I'm going to start with snakes. That was my bit of a challenge.
I love them, and you're going to grow to love them. By the time this show dies, you will learn to love snakes, Glenn. That's
I hate you, and I hate the snakes even more. I'm sorry, I still don't love snakes,
I don't know
and I'm
which
not
was my
liking
most
you very
favorite.
much either.
Watching you handle snakes at Billy Swamp or watching you handle snakes at the Serpentarium, but every time
This
I get a little
snake
giddy.
was creepier. I don't know. The snake was licking me. I didn't like that
It was
at all.
a little more bold. It crawled all the way up your arm.
Yeah, no, that was the end of it for me.
And George was letting it.
Yeah, he loves torturing people, that guy.
Clearly. He doesn't want to be the only one who's lost a finger. He needs to add people to that club.
Well, let's start with, how did you feel? Because you are so, I got to have everything planned down to the last minute or I'm not a happy girl, which drives me insane. But so how did you find this? What was your honest opinion of just winging it?
Well, it was definitely challenging. It was definitely sweat-worthy. I definitely should have brought like extra sticks of deodorant because it just made me nervous the entire time. But I think, you know what? I did have a crutch. I did, without telling you ahead of time, I downloaded the Foursquare app, which it was great. It helps you find things to do around you. So I felt like I had some sort of anchor. And we did have 2 planned stops. So, but I still felt like I was completely thrown into the deep end. So thank you very much for that feeling. It was always lovely. But it was actually good. You know what? It's good to get out of your comfort zone. This is kind of why we're doing the show. One of the many reasons we're doing the show, forces each out of our comfort zones. And it was scary. It was, I was trying to think of a big word, but I was going to stumble, so I'm just going to skip it. But trepidatious, I think, is the word. But yeah, like driving onto random back roads, especially when we were uninvited, a little nerve-wracking.
But what we found was people were so nice. Even down to the last stop we made, which didn't make it to the show. We ate dinner at Ruth's Steakhouse a strip mall.
They were lovely. They were so lovely. They were a recommendation from David, the curator at the International Showmen's Museum, and he nailed it. We're like, yeah, let's go get some local dive place, like a little spot, totally local, and that serves meat. Glenn needs some meat. And he recommended it.
I don't think he wanted to risk sushi in Gibsonton.
No, not really. But it was not, what's funny? It was so funny when we were standing there getting directions from him, because it was just threw me back about 10, 15 years. Because you asked him, where is the best local place? And he literally sat there and gave you directions. He didn't give you an address. He didn't say, here's the name.
On the left.
It's like, I mean, literally, that's exactly what it was. And I'm like, wait a minute. I don't remember the last time someone gave me directions anywhere. They just say a name. I plug it in my phone and I get on with my day. But it was interesting. I was like, wow, this is nice. It felt very small towny.
And this is not the Ruth Steakhouse everybody hears about.
No, not Ruth's Chris.
No.
There's no Chris involved. It's just Ruth, but she is holding down the fort and doing awesome.
It was literally in a strip mall, and it was really good.
Pork chop. You let me taste it. It was so good.
I had pork chops. You had shrimp and scallop. It was really good, actually, and they were so nice in there.
And in fact, my plate was so delicious and well presented that the gentleman behind us at the table behind us, like, kind of leaned over, like, "Oh, what did you get?" I had to tell him what I got because that's what he wanted to order. It was just so cool.
So, would you do it again? Would you do freestyling again?
I think we should. You know what? I think this trip was, to be honest, and I might be shooting myself in the foot. I can't believe I'm putting this on a recording. But to be honest,
wait a minute. Let me hit a second recording in case.
Shut up. Yeah, that's right. I'm the only one recording technically, so I can always dump this part.
Just gonna cut this part out before I get it.
But I actually feel like this trip was the most authentic to our name of Finding Florida. We really did just go on a discovery, and I think the most important lesson, right, was just you got to wing it sometimes. You just got to go out there and just live life and you don't always have to know what's coming. And we found Forever Florida this way, and that's going to be a future trip of ours. I mean, what an amazing find. Neither one of us had ever heard of it, and we would not have ever heard of it, probably, at least not in the foreseeable, immediate future, if we hadn't just winged it and said, hey, Gene, where can we go? And he recommended this place. He recommended it for a meal, and it's totally floating into this other big, huge thing. And that's the kind of thing that's the lesson I learned. Like, you never know what you're going to find.
Let me go over what we would have never done if we had planned ahead.
Yeah, that's true.
The Blueberry Muffin.
No,
we would never went there.
You're
Atlantic Strings. We would have never stopped at the violin shop.
I would never know what a luthier is, and you would never know the difference between a violin and a fiddle, and I would have never embarrassed myself. You big jerk.
So Forever Florida, we found that, as you said. We would have never went to the Linden Hollow Sheep Farm or the Ural place to ride in a sidecar. We would have probably maybe ended up at Reptile World at some place, at some point.
Probably at some point, yeah.
We would have never we stayed at the Mystic Dunes in Kissimmee, and that was a great place to stay. And we winged that. I booked that 2 minutes before we got there.
And it was awesome. It was so cheap
awesome.
and so awesome. And the thing that we definitely would not have found, because we literally drove by and said, what is that? was the Webb's Candy Factory. We would have never found that. And that is what I love about that find is the more we learned about that family and that place, and we learned the history. I mean, dang, the history of that family goes back to Patton's Army. Like, come on. And they have Webb's Candy, Webb's Pharmacy, Webb's Realty, this family's huge. And they're part of the fabric of Florida, and we wouldn't have found them, at least certainly not, anytime soon again. It's just part of that. You never know what you're going to find. Webb's Candy Factory. Gosh, you got to go. If you're in Davenport, man, you got to check it out. Ugh. Bring your insulin with you.
I totally agree. I think this was Finding Florida. This was what we set out to do in the first place. And I think that there needs to be a second show called Finding the People of Florida, because that's what we also found. We found the characters and the people, and we found such interesting characters. And what we found is that they were all so nice.
And you know what I think is fantastic? The fact that we can go 5-10 minutes down the street and you meet two people as diverse as Sherry from Canada, who raises sheepdogs, right? And is phenomenally talented at it. I mean, wow. Again, 10 minutes up the road, someone named George, who's been obsessed with rescuing snakes since he came out of the womb. These are two very different people, and we met there right up the road from each other. We got to meet them both, and that adds to the color palette of my life. I love that.
And then there was our 78-year-old friend who took us on a ride with sidecars.
God, oh my God! Now tell me. Be honest. Let me ask you this. This is getting a little personal. So I know Gene shares the name of someone very special to you. And
my dad.
Yeah. Was that in your head at all when you met him? Did it remind you at all?
It does actually, because that's not a very common name anymore.
Yeah.
So it was that generation that had the name Eugene, and so Gene, and actually he would probably be if my dad was still alive, he'd probably be just about the age of my dad.
Right.
But what a precious commodity he was. Starting this Ural motorcycles are very rare here.
Very rare.
And he starts a dealership for Ural motorcycles because and then he blew me away when he said he was at Bike Week at Daytona.
I'm telling you, his life is a time capsule.
I can picture him sitting at the bar with the bikers.
Talking about how his daddy sold Urals. It's just crazy. that American flag that he had hanging in his shop. I mean, his dog Sugar was just everything was just you couldn't have scripted a more perfect character for that place.
I actually could have sat down with him for about an hour and done a complete episode because he had done so many things in his life.
God, there's so many stories I want to go back and just spend weekends with these people because the stories that they have are they're incredible.
And then because we've made a stop, we now have been invited to the second largest air show in the world.
Oh yeah, that's right. Duh, I can't believe we almost forgot about that.
We go to the Aerospace Museum there in Lakeland, and they're so nice. Yes, Carol says, well, you guys need to come back, and has invited us to come back. So we're going to do an episode, talk about meeting characters, from the second largest air show. And she said she was going to fix us up, which I think means Jemmy's going to be thrown up in a plane.
No. That's all I have to say is no. But this is going to be awesome.
I'll tell you what, I'll do the plane, you do the hot air balloon, okay? Deal?
Yes. Okay. Yes, I'm all about that. Yes. So this is what's awesome. I mean, we touched on it, obviously, in talking to Carol and our experience there, but I've never been to an air show, so I'm super excited about that. And you're right, like probably would have been on our radar to add one to our trip at some point, but the fact that we feel like we're now being specially invited, and then as a little side note, we actually we're recording this a little bit late, but we actually just came off of our next adventure, our trip with FRLA, and they were talking to us about getting involved with something for that air show as well. So all the people that we're meeting when we're doing this show and building this network and doing this thing that we're doing with FPN and Finding Florida, we're getting to meet some of the most amazing people and also get all this behind the scenes look at the industry of travel and tourism in Florida and how it reaches everything. Everything is intertwined. I mean, an airspace museum is talking to us about the exact same thing that Florida Restaurant and Lodging, the exact same event that they're talking to us about. Like, it's just everything's connected. And I love this adventure of discovery that we're on. I feel like we really are finding Florida when we do this show.
I really do too. But now we have to go.
No, I don't want to go. I'm having fun.
We want to thank everyone who helped us out on this adventure, including all of our sponsors. Check out their links in our show notes, along with all the photos and videos. We took a lot of photos, and they're very fun. If you haven't checked out our photos yet, you should. Mm-hmm. We're just a little goofy, so you want to check those out. Along with all of that, you can find at findingfloridapodcast.com. Go through each individual episode, and you'll see the picture galleries. And I want to say, wait a minute. One more thing. Yeah. I want to say Jemmy takes a lot of time and effort to put those galleries together. It takes a long time. So go look at them. She puts a lot of work into that.
Oh, thank you. And actually, there are a couple of extra secret galleries that if you go to the About, they're not really secret, but I'll tell you about them now. But if you go to the About page, there are a couple of little photo strips there of just a couple little special series. So on every adventure, I tend to squish Glenn in like a perspective picture, or
I saw the last
joke
one.
About how short I am, so I always do a comparative height picture when I can. So those pictures, those special ones, are on the About page. But yes, definitely go to the galleries on every episode, and it adds a lot of flavor to what you're listening to already. So, anyways, if you can find all of our episodes at findingfloridapodcast.com, and you can find the episodes on any podcast aggregator that you might use, iTunes, Stitcher, all those places. And our network shows, all of our network shows, are at floridapodcastnetwork.com. And Finding Florida will have another great adventure for you next month, as I just teased a little bit. We're going to be highlighting some of the top brands and businesses in Florida's restaurant industry per invitation by the Florida Restaurant Lodging Association. We were invited by them to cover their restaurant show, and we tore our way through their expo floor, tasting all kinds of new foods and meeting all kinds of characters from the industry. So we can't wait to bring you all of that in our next episodes. But until then,
here's to your next adventure.